Last night was, I think, I was very impressed with all of you working and discussing. Last night, it was really, it gave me a great feeling. So thank you all for coming back tonight. What we're going to try to do tonight is, first of all, Jim's going to go over, you didn't find the right person?
No, April was waving at somebody.
Oh.
So I've got somebody's little black book.
And somebody's little red book.
Somebody's little red book. Does anybody know who they belong to? Anybody willing to admit to it?
Did you read it?
I read through it all.
That's right. He's
got a lot of really important information in here.
Okay.
All stored. Well, okay. We'll leave them up here in case somebody wants to claim them.
Okay, so the first part of the program is Jim is going to go through a list, essentially, of ideas, comments, thoughts, proposals that were brought up last night, grouped. I mean, there could have been 10 ways of saying a similar thing, and so it was tried to get it into one phrasing instead of having it on there 15 ways. So the first part is simply to go through what came out of last night that might be a component of a plan, okay, might go into a plan, and get some general consensus that, yeah, that was said last night, yeah, that we think that's a good idea, and then ask if there's anything you think is vitally important that's not in there. Not just another way of saying what's in there, but if there's something that you think is important and is not in there and should be in there, then let us know. We'll have the microphone to pass around. And then after that, we're going to try to organize those things that we've agreed should be a component into essentially these categories, things that can be done to help find or create additional units, housing opportunities, whatever they might be called, that can get people indoors, out of outdoor homelessness, indoors quickly. Second is the systems. You know, we talked a lot last night about coordinating the systems, improving the systems. The systems that can be used to get people indoors quickly. Once you have the housing opportunities, you've got a system that can get people there too, improvements in those systems. Then components that were centered around moving people into permanent housing and what that takes in terms of both units and the support services that need to be there, and to keep them in permanent housing, which again were some ideas we talked about. And then the overarching, okay, if we come up with a plan or components of a plan, how do we get support for it, which is the community support and political will piece, okay? So just know as we go through these, we're going to try to group things under those categories. It's just an organizational tool. Okay, any questions? Okay, Jim.
I'm going to take it. Yeah.
You want me to hold it?
No, I got it. So I think Councilmember Hauser just walked in. So she deserves the credit for getting your parking vouchers taken care of, okay? All right, so again, as Patsy said, we grouped things from last night. We'll go through this and make sure that you all are comfortable with this. If there's something in particular we don't have under these headings, let us know and we'll put them up. And I'm going to read them because I know people way in the back probably can't see them, all right? So we grouped a whole bunch of things under the coordinated entry, HMIS, and triage. We just kind of grouped everything in that category. So the first bullet point is all groups need to be entering data into HMIS, all right? So if we're not doing it, everybody needs to get on board and do that, all right? And I'll go through this first category and then I'll go back to see if any questions or if there are things that you don't agree to, okay? So the first one is, again, everybody entering data into HMIS. More dollars for more licenses for HMIS, all right? So what we're hearing is that we may not have enough licenses out there. We may need to put some more money in to make sure that everybody has access to the system. More training on entering the data, making sure that everybody knows what to do, so we make sure we get the right information in. There was also this idea about making sure that whatever we're doing within the data system, we're getting accurate reports back into the Homeless Planning Council, okay? Which can be shared obviously with everybody else. But again, one of the questions was, how much information are you getting through the system to make sure you have an accurate read on what's going on? Okay? And I don't know. I don't know how many reports are coming out, but the idea was maybe all those reports need to come out so people actually have the correct information. We know what's going on, okay? Increased collaboration between faith-based, not-for-profits, and government. Everybody on board with that? Hearing none. All right, and the last one in this category was something different that we don't have, and that was the creation of regional service hubs, which was going to become a one-stop shop for all services. So anything from, they would be in regional parts of the city. People could come by and get information on services, get services, and if they were, so we're not talking right now about shelter space or anything else like that. What we're talking about is a place where people, if they needed to come do their laundry, they could come do that. If they needed a place to keep their stuff, they could have lockers at this. And if they just needed basic services, they could come to this regional hub and get services. So you're getting information. And obviously, that goes in with just knowing that people can come in and we get the data there. We put people in HMIS. But it's also a way to kind of triage what's going on. Those were the things that we put under this first category. Questions with this? Anything that needs to come off? Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So Mr. Strobel said put business under here. You okay with that? Okay. Okay, you get the first points. Okay. So we're going to add business to this, right? No, we don't give him candy. We just say thank you. Okay. All right. Other things that need to go on? Yeah, Chris.
On the first page, you talked about getting people into the HMIS and getting them registered. I'm thinking an incentive plan, basically accessible at any of the homeless outreach organizations, places, but a small form. And that if they fill out this form, in return they get maybe a couple bus passes, a couple all-day bus passes. And that would be the incentive to be able to get the information on the homeless who are out there. That would give them an incentive to give you that information and give you something to log into to get your numbers up there.
So the idea, if you're hearing Chris, what he's talking about is incentives to actually fill out the form, okay? So Judy,
To get in the system.
yeah, Judy, have we ever done anything like that you know of? Okay, so I'm going to start passing the microphone around. Do you want to just say it out loud? Okay.
So we have looked at, we haven't done that, but incentives can backfire because that could create duplication of efforts when people want the bus passes. They say they're not in there or give different information to get the bus passes. So it's something to look into, but also to be aware that there could be unintentional consequences coming out of that.
Yeah, so Chris, I mean, I understand the point. I guess the,
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
I want to get as many people, as many of the homeless registered and into your system as possible. And that's why I was thinking an incentive program to get them to a small, simple form would be easy enough to access.
I'm guessing, oh, Kathy, I'll go to you next. All right, thank you, Kathy, for that. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. India, yeah. Oh, you were agreeing with Kathy? Okay.
Let me just add one thing. I found out today that, and you probably know this, but getting as many people into the system has financial consequences in terms of Metro being able to qualify for certain kinds of money or more money. So it's important for a lot of reasons, but that's also a way to get more resources. So it's important for a lot of different ways.
Yeah, Rachel?
I think, oh, thanks. I was wondering if we're asking for more money for license, also more money for the support. The more people we put in that are in emergency shelters, room in the inn, the mission, things like that, the more money you can get into the system because your points go up as well, right? So,
Yeah. So I'm
but it's very cumbersome because you have to do it every single day and it's a lot of different fields you have to go into to even enter one person. How many minutes per person, Kelly?
I think last night to enter 71, it took me about 45 minutes.
Yeah. So that's a lot of data.
So, okay, so some sort of streamlining of,
Those were people who were already in the system. I was just tracking that they had stayed in. So if you have to put them in from new, it's going to take.
Okay, so is the problem forms from us? Is the problem forms from the federal government?
It's federal, and then the HMIS system that we're using right now, while it can do a lot of great things, is cumbersome and it's not the most user-friendly. So there are not a lot of quick steps to be able to go through and just attach a service once someone's already in the system. There are a lot of hoops to jump through to make sure that the information is in there correct.
Okay.
So that's out of our control.
Yeah, how much of it is in our control? Do we know? Do we know? You can't hear me back here? Oh, not them. I'm sorry, I'm gonna start passing the microphone. It's better. Yeah, we'll see if we can get another mic. Okay, you gotta repeat everything you just said.
Yeah, so at least I work with Room in the Inn. My name's Kelly, and we've been putting our winter shelter participants in each night, so showing that they've stayed in the shelter each night, and that's what we're talking about. Last night, it took me about 45 minutes to put 71 people in to record that they had stayed, but all 71 of them had already been with all of their basic information in the system. So that was just entering a service code. HMIS can do a lot of great things, but unfortunately, my opinion at least, is that the current system we have is cumbersome and it's not the most user-friendly. It's not quick and intuitive. So while we have the capabilities to put things in and to get those reports out, it takes a lot of time and it is extremely cumbersome to be able to get that in there and get what we need from the system.
So I heard an amen and a scream from Paula Foster. Okay.
so, I'm sorry, let me ask a basic question. Is there a way to get it different?
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same, which is, this is precisely why we don't have the missions information, is because of the current HMIS system. So maybe before that first bullet point, the first bullet point should be a different HMIS system. Very well said too, Kelly. I don't know that that's going to do it, but I think it's an improved system.
Okay, so we just put improved HMIS up here on the board. Well, okay, again, yeah. Okay. Okay, anything else for this first point, for this first category? Okay. Okay, we're gonna go to the next one. Okay, so this was called wraparound, yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, whenever you all raise your hand, I'm gonna come to you, okay? Okay. Oh, and the public? And we're just gonna add public to this list after Mr. Strobel said business, add public as well? Increased collaboration? Sure. Okay, okay. Okay. I'll put that on there in just a minute. Okay, so the next category is wraparound services. Just again, grouping things from what we saw. So this was interesting, after hours and weekend help. So not all services are just needed between 8 and 5 during the day. So the idea was,
And people are not always there. The
Right.
outreach people are
so it's,
trying to outreach.
yeah, it's additional resources to put into additional hours. So So when there's a problem at 5:30 PM on Friday afternoon, there's going to be help that we can get access to, okay? That was something that was put on the list. Cross-sector coordination, making sure healthcare was mentioned on a couple of the forums, criminal justice, child care, rehabilitation. Again, these are things that you all put in there last night. We're just calling it cross-sector coordination, needs to be improved in this area, okay? Can we add, yeah, I didn't list everything, but we can put mental health care in here as well. Wait a minute, I don't have a pen. Here, thank you. Okay. Okay. Expand SOAR in Metro. Okay. Good with that? Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can fully explain it either. Judy, it's yours. Because we have it within Safe Haven, but I'm not sure if I can give the full explanation.
It's linking, it stands for SSI, SSDI, outreach, access to, yes, and recovery. And it really is linking people to SSI and benefits, giving them income.
Okay.
Specifically, SOAR works with those who are homeless and have mental health concerns that can be really hard to prove to Social Security disability.
You need to stay here because I'm going to be asking you questions, okay? All right. Again, wraparound services, increase the number of caseworkers. We heard that a lot yesterday, and we also heard we need to pay them more, right?
And I think we need to recruit from outside of the, I think we need to find a way to recruit from outside of those who are already doing it. Right now, we're moving one person to another nonprofit, and we're not increasing the number, we're just moving that knowledge to one location to another.
So we have to promise to quit stealing from each other. Okay, okay, not intentionally. Yes, sir.
Is there a training program for people who want to get into that and be a part of that system? We need a training program.
Yes.
So there's something called a certified peer recovery specialist. You can do that in 1 week, and then you do the hours. So that's, when I say peer recovery, you can be recovering from mental health or addiction or co-occurring. I think most of us are probably recovering from mental health illness. So, yeah.
All right, so again, increase the number of caseworkers. Yeah, council member. So the question is, how many more do we actually need? I think that would probably depend on talking to the various groups along with Metro Social Services, Homeless Impact Division, and get a much better, Councilmember Druffel, I think a lot of it may depend on, there's ratios, how many caseworkers you need for the number of people. And I think we'd have to figure out how many caseworkers we have out there and then how many people we're talking about and then figure it out. Rachel, do you know?
Well, I also wonder, do you need to do, I'm sorry. I also wonder, do you need to do a survey from the existing nonprofits to see how down they are in staff? Because if they can't work at their full capacity, you're going to have more people in encampments. We're not all working at the same level.
As you are seeing, and as you will see at the end, will not come out of this group a detailed plan that says we need X number of this and X number of that. What we're going to end up with here are sort of components. And for example, there might be several alternatives to ways to create or get transitional housing quickly. And so I think the recommendation will be for whoever the decision makers are to get that basic information and then assess the different locations and the different possibilities and make those judgments. But we don't get and don't have here the specifics on some things that whoever's going to make the decisions will need to get, and that we need to make sure we recommend that they do that they start gathering on, if they don't have it, compiling it. They probably have most of it. Yes, sir.
These items we're talking about, we should probably think about what data we're going to have which will define success. Everything ought to have some kind of like a ratio you're talking about of caseworkers to people experiencing homelessness. That would be a number. The number we're successful.
Yeah, I think, is this working?
No.
Here, I'll give you, this one's not working, sir.
There you go. All right, so part of what we're trying to do as we go through this tonight is figure out accountability. I mean, we're going to give the plan to somebody, but somebody has to be accountable. And so one of the things that we'll talk about before we get out of here is this group probably every so often needs to get back together again. And somebody needs to come back and say, this is what we're doing. Or at least this is not what we're doing. So it explains to people what's going on. So your idea of measuring and the data, we've got everybody's email addresses. If we get information, we should be able to send that out to everybody so they know what's going on, okay?
I have one more thing to add, which is that for some of these things, like the ratios, there are national standards or association standards or standards in other cities that I think are available. So that's always a good place to start, to see if we measure up to that.
All right, Ms. Foster? There you go.
So I just want to make sure that when you're talking about outreach workers and increasing the number of outreach workers in order to get people into housing, quickly, please don't forget that next step then is retention workers, because I think that we have a lot of outreach workers in this community. We don't have a lot of retention workers. So once you get people into housing, how are you going to keep them there if you don't have people to wrap those services around it? And I've said it over and over, and I'll continue to say it. Housing First is an excellent model if you have the intensive services you need to keep people in the housing and wrap those services around someone. We as a community do not, and that's what we need.
Thank you.
All right, here you go.
Well, two things. One, I was just going to say, in my mind as a layperson about this whole thing, is that was my understanding of casework. I'm thinking about the whole process, so you can just lump that in there with it if you wish. And then two, I think if we don't have a centralized place within our governmental structure to be the head of all of this, or to be the whip of all this, we'll always have different spinning wheels going in all different kind of directions, not being as efficient as possible.
I hear you. Okay.
I just wanted to go more on what Paula was saying about wraparound services, and going back to the comment about cross-sector coordination. I think what I heard last night was more than coordination. I think I heard expansion of services, expansion of Medicaid, expansion of free childcare or subsidized childcare, expansion of these wraparound services.
All right, I think we'll put that up there as well as add the word expansion. Anybody else while I'm walking around back here? Okay. All right, so I'm going to try to go through some of the rest of the stuff fairly quickly, because eventually we want to get to this board and this board where we actually start kind of, again, what we're trying to do here is to make sure that we don't have anything on here that's not supposed to be on here, or if we had to add stuff to it. All right. Better systems mapping, that was on one of the sheets. I think it was just making sure that we map where people are better, making sure we know kind of what we're dealing with and where people are and where services are as well, okay? Educational training and opportunities was on a couple of them. Mediation services was on one to deal with evictions, so we actually have a better process. So we're trying to deal with it up front. We're trying to make sure that people can stay in their housing. So an attempt to try to deal with this in a faster way. Yes, sir.
this whole oil, you don't concentrate, you concentrate on the project, and then plan it.
Okay, so just, yeah, more information, more indications of what actually is in different areas. Okay, I get that. Yeah, Councilmember Hauser?
Make sure that when we talk about the mediation, that we also make sure that we're leaving the landlord whole. Because a lot of what we're seeing is, yes, we don't want to evict people, but it's really hard on landlords because in 6 months they haven't received any rent, and they're still paying their mortgage.
Well, I think the mediation is designed to try to deal with all the situations, but okay. All right, let me see what else I got. I got flexible funding and arrears funding. This is basically, there was a combination of lots of different things about making sure that additional funds are added into funds so that, particularly with arrears funding showed up, but also with flexible funding, I think people were talking about if people need help with rental assistance, whether it's arrears or a deposit in front, let's make sure that there's sufficient funds either given to Metro Social Services or someplace where there is funding available to make sure that people do have access to things if they need it, okay? That's what that was. And then there was an increased focus on the need for childcare. I think we were talking about that before. It's just one of many things, but childcare is obviously trying to get good quality childcare is a barrier for many, many people in terms of, first of all, the cost, transporting kids, the barrier where it comes to employment. So an increased focus on the need for good quality childcare in Davidson County was one of the main things. All right. Communication, and again, these are broad, it's a broad category. A lot of people said you got to let the public know what's going on. You have got to educate the public. So the gentleman who was talking about reporting, I lost you for a second. There you are, with the hat on. That's part of it. Part of it is making sure that whatever information we have available, the general public needs to know. You all need to know. I need to know. This information needs to be shared so we have a better idea of, first of all, what's out there, and second of all, what are we doing? And are we making any strides in terms of actually dealing with the situation? And we don't know. So if we're not telling anybody, we can't function very well. We can't address the situation, nor can we figure out if we're making any headway on any of this stuff. So letting the public know. Reporting back with results, the same thing. Accountability, we have got to know. Somebody's got to be held responsible. It's the only way we ever make steps forward. Knowing what is available, this came in terms of a lot of people want to know what's in our housing stock. What do we have available out there? For looking for housing, what is available out there right now? And I don't know if anybody has a list. I know at Safe Haven we do some of that. Obviously, we're looking for people with who will rent apartments, and I assume other groups have the same thing. But I don't know if there's ever a coordinated list. I don't know. Okay, so there's an effort to know what's available. Coordination of funding and fundraising. We're all out there fundraising. We're all out there getting lots of funding. Do we ever coordinate and make sure that we all are pushing for the same results? This came up on one of the sheets. That's what that was talking about. A specific place to get all information. What showed up on the sheets were, is there a website? Is there a phone number? Is there one place where if people really are looking for all the information they need to know, is there one place to go get that information? Okay, so somebody put that on one of the sheets as well. And maybe there is, but if there's not, there should be. Yeah, John? Listening to the public? Yeah, we can put that. Yeah. Okay.
On this, do you mean people experiencing homelessness, that they need a place to go?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it's
Yeah.
public or.
Yeah, so if people need a service, if they need something, there should be a place where they don't have to get a runaround looking for things.
Right.
Yes, ma'am, and then I'll come back to Carolyn. Yes, ma'am. Do we count 211 as that? That was discussed today. Yeah. It was discussed last night and today. I don't know whether that's one place, but I don't know if it's got everything that we need for Davidson County. Judy, you have any comments on that?
Other communities have used 211. We are not using it as the coordinated entry number yet. We do not have this one number yet. It could be a possibility. I heard, I think, last night it was thrown out, 211, utilizing the hub. And then one comment was also, I think, that I had noted down, not 211.
Okay. Somebody else? Yeah, uh-huh. Resource directory booklets, Open Table has those, and Lindsay's got one in her hand. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we're looking for, grant funding opportunities to put it online.
I thought we were just talking about coordinated fundraising. Hold on. Carolyn, nice to see you.
I wanted to know about a clearinghouse. You had alluded to it when you had made mention in terms of where things were. But a clearinghouse possibly for finding where everything is and people could access that particular point. In addition, in order for us to know that we've gotten where we want to get, we have to know where we were when we started in the various aspects. So an assessment, and I heard accountability, but an assessment into the various broad categories that ultimately will be decided should be serving as the baseline data in order for you to know and evaluate where you are, how fast it took you to get there, and how far you need to go to reach the goal.
That's a very good point. Okay, so we have to know where we are right now so we can figure out in every aspect. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Carrie.
The Salvation Army actually has an app. If you want to go to the App Store, it's called the LifeNav app that has the ability to help you find resources because it is linked to Google. And that's a good start to kind of create an app. And we are up for the challenge of helping making that more useful throughout the city.
Yeah, maybe we haven't gotten there yet, and I could be jumping the gun, but we've talked about the what, where, when, and why. We haven't talked about the who yet, a housing of homelessness and housing, or department, excuse me, I'm tired, of housing and homelessness. There first has to be somebody driving this, being the champion, right? And doing that assessment. Am I jumping ahead? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. We're getting there. Okay, let me run through this, and then we're going to get to where Carrie is going. And that's, once we get through that, then we're on the board, then we're writing these things down, trying to figure out where we go as a group. Okay, so we listed this as a catch-all. This goes with what Paula was talking about, long-term follow-up with continued access to services. And the concern is, you know, if you get people into housing and you get wraparound services, what happens in the long run? Do we just at some point kind of stop and then we're not checking on them anymore? But people need help all the way through. So long-term follow-up with continued access to services. Utilize mentors who have succeeded. One of the groups had this. Folks who have been successful getting through, they become mentors to other individuals. Metro, one of the ideas was temp jobs for individuals, along with apprenticeship programs. And then here's this thing that we were talking about, the new Office of Housing and Homelessness, creating a whole separate division of housing and homelessness, creating that. And obviously there's a bill pending before the Metro Council right now that starts to do that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so any questions right here? Yeah, Rachel.
Well, it's not exact. I guess for those of us who are intricately involved in this work, we kind of understand the difference with the Office of Housing and Homelessness than it is now. But I'm not clear how that makes us more nimble. Like, does it make us more complicated because they'd still have to work with Metro Social Services and MDHA? Like, I want to get on board with whatever the whole group wants to do as we move forward, but I don't even understand it completely about how it makes us more nimble and takes away some of that bureaucracy that we have to deal with now.
That's okay. It's a good question. So the question was obviously, how does it work? I'm not sure if I can answer the question in the sense of, and I don't want to get into a big debate tonight here. Yeah, it was something that was brought up on the sheets. Okay, we don't have to leave right now. Okay, so.
If in fact there's a recommendation to, I don't even know if you should call it this, but call it a department level thing, then you could describe what the components should be. Now, of course, the council, I guess, would create the thing. If it's a new department, the council would create it. If it's within a different department, that's the mayor.
So part of, if there are things on here that people aren't comfortable with, and I know there's lots of discussion going on with this. So if people aren't comfortable, this is going to go into part of the policy or the plan that goes forward. This showed up last night. If people aren't necessarily comfortable with it, it can come off. It's what you all want to do, okay? And I don't know how you're moving it, basically what this bill is going to do is take this division of Metro Homeless Impact Division, move it out of social services and move it into a separate department or division. Away from social services, it becomes kind of its own. How does that impact what happens? I don't know, okay? But it's more of a logistical, as I understand it, and I know Courtney's here, and Gloria's here, and Jeff Syracuse is here. I've got some councilmen, and Tom Druffle's here. As my understanding, when I looked at the bill, it simply moves it out of social services and puts it someplace else, okay? Courtney?
I don't know that it moves it, I think it makes it more independent, kind of like NDHA is independent.
Okay.
What was my understanding, and I might be wrong with Jeff or Tom, but I thought it was gonna pull it completely out and be.
It moves it, right now it's in social services. It moves it out of there and creates it as an independent functioning agency. Gloria? Okay.
I just know that, like, I know our agency's being asked how we do that, and it's a big ticket item, it's a big item, and I don't want it to be just another item,
Yeah.
It's a big item.
That's right.
How the ordinance is written, how the state law is written. If you want to create an NDHA kind of thing, it's got to be state statute. If you want to, anyway, all in the details of how it's all written. So I guess it's still there. And I don't know about the one that's pending, but that's where you need your input, is sort of how exactly it's supposed to go.
Okay, Raven? There's a mic coming.
I'm going to need it. Thank you very much. We have a lot of compassion in this room. I want to remind everyone that everyone brings lots of experiences to the table. So by saying this, a lot of this, what we're saying is have a one-stop shop. And by having our own department that works with, like, the Metro Homeless Impact Division, for example, taking it out of the social services, grows it into a stronger tree, which will then provide the services in the one-stop shop in which we are talking about with this. And homelessness is a very, as everyone here knows, is a very complex thing, and there's lots of reasons why someone's life gets that way. And by having a multi-wrapped around services and things to do support it, then we are able to address the many, many things.
Okay, thank you. Yes, ma'am?
Good evening. My name is Lisa Spells, and I'm interested in this nouveau agency or organization that you're trying to create. And it appears, if I'm looking at an old wagon wheel, that there's a hub in the middle. And if that's your clearinghouse, are you attaching this new agency to all of the other existing agencies that supply services? And then how would you manifest no overlap and no expenditures from having the same services under a different umbrella? How does that work? And how do you justify funding something when you have a nuance, when you already have the agencies in place to take care of the same issues?
So I don't know if we can address that tonight. It's a bill floating before the council. It creates this new entity. How it's going to coordinate and how it's going to work, the bill hadn't even passed yet, so it hasn't been formulated. And unless somebody, I know the sponsor of the legislation is not here, so I'm not sure exactly how to explain it without his help. You want to say something else?
Nashville has more than 27 colleges and universities with multiple agencies, departments, including psychology and sociology and legal, and you know this. They also have work-study programs where students get paid by the federal funds through the schools. All the people who are taking courses and qualify for work-study can get educational credits from helping with this project. So you're talking about fundraising. That's a way to delete some funds or to take another activity and utilize the funds that are already available. They can also help develop, because they can get credits for that, develop the process and the program. Yes, it has the statute has not passed, but the problem does exist. So in the meantime, what can we do before the council passes anything?
Well, so what I'll say is one of the reasons we're all here tonight and last night is to deal with exactly that. That's what we're after. Okay. Anything else? Beth?
Hi, I'm Beth Shannon. I was part of the Mayor's Affordable Housing Task Force, which also recommended a Department of Housing and Homelessness, because there's nobody in the city focused on housing at this point. There's MDHA that's focused on its portfolio, but there's no one focused on developing housing outside of MDHA.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sort of the organizational person, that's the way my mind works. And what I would say is the recommendation ought to be the creation of an entity. Don't call it a particular thing at this point, an entity that has certain enumerated powers. Some of those may be taken from other places, and this is what I hear you all saying is there needs to be one place that's responsible. And they can be held responsible, and everybody else has to kind of do what their priorities are. They're the ones who set priorities. So some more general description for an overarching kind of thing, I think, would satisfy what the group wants, and then you can look at proposals as they're proposed and see whether that sort of meets with what you think when specifics come out. Okay.
Okay, last couple of things real quick. The political will, that has come up. It came up on a number of sheets as we were talking through this. You're going to have people with backbones to do some of these things that we want to do, particularly when it comes to housing. And so that's going to be an issue that's going to drive some of the discussions. You've got to have the political will. Somebody had put down quick wins. I think that's more for, obviously it's taken a while to get to this. And how are we going to get started? How do we keep momentum so that, when we get to the housing thing, which is coming up right behind it, housing options, some of those housing options may take a little while to do. So you got to start quick wins will allow for momentum to keep it going, okay? So that's one of the things that came on. Yeah, John? It's not, so, okay, thank you. Well, hold on.
No, I want to speak, because you sit here in this room. I'm 57 years old. I have a bachelor's. I have a master's degree from Purdue University, from DePaul University. I made well over 6 figures. I bounced around from Illinois to Indiana to this.
Well, so, hold on. No, wait, no, wait.
I'm not angry at you people.
No,
I just want you to know something
no, we're,
about your system.
well,
You have nothing for educated people. You have nothing for cyber criminals. You have nothing. I was turned away from today because I'm female. God forbid 50% of the world is female. I can't get a shelter because I'm a woman. Or I have to cry domestic violence to get in a shelter. Or I have to be a mental health victim. Or I have to be an alcoholic. I'm none of those things. Do you want me to stand here? Would you like to call Boyd up in Elkhart, Indiana, and find out about my recent drug test that is incredibly clean? I can't get any help from you people. I'm highly educated. I'm a female, and I've got nothing here. In Chicago, I sat for days trying to just get into a facility. Have you been in the facilities? They're dirty. They're disgusting. I might as well have been a criminal for being homeless, for a cyber crime that I went to the police, I went to the FBI for, and I've gotten no justice for. And you know what? I'm so incredibly disenfranchised with the United States. If somebody offered me a job in a good country to give up my citizenship, I probably would. Because that is the business of the United States. You build a new facility. I look around all these cities. It gives you great time to wander around. You have empty buildings everywhere. No affordable housing. We made it to do that. We didn't make it for the poor. We didn't make it for the middle class. And guess what? Your biggest class should be your middle class. You know, and those in the lower end should be always trying to move them up. It's not a city for the rich. You want a rich? You want to just be about rich? Then you'll have an empty city. Because the people that serve you are middle class. They're poor. And I served my whole life. I paid for my own degree. I paid for my college education. I didn't wait until handouts. But it is frustrating when you're 57 years old. You stand outside in 40 degrees. Have you ever done it? I ask all of you tonight. Go stand outside in 40-degree weather with a coat on and a pair of jeans and a wrist. The only shelter I got last night was from the heater that was coming out at the homeless shelter. You know, the whole thing, and it's not just you. Indiana, no affordable housing. I finally got a job in Indiana. I made $16. Guess what? I stayed in the hotel because I could. They're telling me that there's no business person out there that wants to give me a week-to-week rental so I can live. You've got to be kidding me. It's doable. You know, we don't offer anything like that. You take all the money back at a hotel. $350. It takes everything. There's no way of ever getting out of poverty. There's no way of ever getting out of being homeless because you don't have any affordable housing. You want the government to do it all. There's more than enough money in this country. You're telling me that we're so short-sighted that somebody with funds can't come redo the buildings that are empty, beautiful buildings. There's a historical building where Morton's is sitting. I believe it's Morton's, the restaurant, empty. There's all kinds of empty buildings. You can transition those into affordable housing units. You just do basic stuff. You know, and give somebody a place to live. I just want a room. I can't. You assume that everybody has a phone. There's no pay phones. There are no pay phones. The pay phone at the library. The only other place I found a pay phone was in South Bend, Indiana, at the airport. There's no pay phone. I don't have a pay phone. I was told unless I go to a shelter and stay in a shelter that wanted actually my blanket, you know, and actually, sorry, but I'm a little advocacy box with me, my replacement for my cat I walked in with lately, because I like to talk about animals, but, you know, the thing is, I can't even get a phone. I can't get a phone without being in the shelter. I can't get in the shelter because I get turned away. Your system, you're worried about building a building. I'd like somebody to build me just a little room so that I could actually have a computer that, you know, I don't have somebody hack, and that I could actually get a job, you know?
Okay, so let me stop you now, because what we're trying to do here, no, I understand.
You're worried about a system which
Well,
I've worked on.
but
Your
but
system is far more broken than that.
I understand. So the reason,
And if you're not religious,
ma'am,
God forbid.
the reason we're here tonight, and we appreciate you talking,
It's not open-minded.
but,
It's a very limiting system. You
well,
need to be open-minded. You need to be diverse. You need to be progressive.
Okay.
And you need to have
Actually,
not disparate systems.
but-
They're all
Everybody
disparate.
here
Salvation
agrees.
Army's disparate. That system over
okay.
there is disparate.
But if you would like to,
Disparate.
ma'am, if you'd like to sit down and be a part of the conversation, we worked last night,
I
and
was just a part of the conversation, sir.
I know you were, so we appreciate you doing it. Okay.
On people who do care.
Okay. Hey, Chris, we're good.
Right,
Chris,
right.
Chris, we're good. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, we're trying to address
That's
those
what
issues
we're
that
trying
you
to
can,
do.
and
Okay. So, anyway, let's finish going through this stuff so we can get on, because, I mean, she's right. We have to come up with a plan. Okay? Yes, ma'am. Well, but I don't think but we're not trying to dismiss anybody. We're trying to get, ma'am. Yeah. Because we're calling on individuals. We're calling on individuals, and she wasn't called on. Well, so if you want action, that's what everybody is here for tonight. But with this many people, you have to have some type of control in terms of what happens. If everybody wants to get up and talk for 20 minutes, then we'll close at 8, and then we won't get anything done. So we're trying to come up with a plan. That's the purpose, okay? Now, if this is just to talk about what just happened, that's fine. But we're trying to actually get something done here, because we have tonight to try to come up with a plan. I thought that was the purpose of it. We have ground rules. We're trying to follow those. That's what we're trying to do. Now, I got 3 hands up. If you want to spend the next 30 minutes talking about stuff and not worrying about the plan, then that's okay. But, okay, if you're on the plan, that's what we want. Okay, we're going here. Are you on the plan?
I'm on the plan. Because part of what she said, we talked about on ours last night about the housing options, was dealing with the term options. So having some that's just not overnight, but some that are week to week, or maybe 3-month or 6-month tie over, having those leasing term options with the housing. So not just about affordability, but about duration. So I think just put an asterisk with the housing when you're considering that.
Okay. I mean, again, we're here because we want to try to make a difference. If we want to spend time just arguing with each other, we're never going to get anywhere.
You know, I'm just saying, I'll put the asterisk on
And I'm
this
not
one.
talking to you, I'm just saying generally, we got a lot of stuff to cover tonight.
We can't create a comprehensive plan without listening to people with lived experience. And that was the most coherent thing I have heard said in this entire 2 nights. So, if you want to get into the weeds of the plan, You need to listen to people with lived experience and give them the mic when they're speaking.
We have people with lived experience here. They're part of this process. We need to, yes, but everybody is here and everybody needs to be heard. But you don't let people monopolize a particular thing. And we have ground rules that we're trying to follow so we can get through this, okay? It's the only way we're going to get through this, or else we're not going to have a plan at the end of this thing, and then we will have spent 2 days working on something with no plan, okay? Yeah, John? Yeah. Oh, raising the temperature, that's what got this started. So raising the temperature is up to 32 degrees. So instead of opening a shelter at 28 degrees, you open the shelter at 32 degrees or below, okay?
Hello, you had mentioned the quick wins on the previous page, I believe, and
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, was that the quick win for this plan or for the homeless and unhoused? I think what she may have been mentioning or speaking to is, what are we doing today? How are we housing those encamped so they're not in the 30-degree weather, the 30-day, the 60-day, the 90-day?
Well, so somebody mentioned quick wins. That's not from me, it's not from Patsy. One of the groups said quick wins, so we just put it down on the sheet of paper. So if you want somebody to answer that, you'd have to ask somebody who put it in.
No, I'd like you to help us as a leader, to help us understand what is being done immediately in the next 30 to 60 days to get these people into shelters and out of the street.
So we just spent all last night talking about we needed short-term and long-term plans from you all. That's what this meeting is about, because we don't have a plan. So the idea is we're supposed to be working through this tonight, trying to come up with a plan, both 30, 60, 90 days and longer than that. So that's what we're all here for tonight. Sir, is this about the plan, or is this just? So this was, so everybody was invited to this. Everybody was invited to participate. This is who came. So we're doing. We understand that. That's we try to make it easy by having the downtown library, and by having a large enough space where people could be safe. Okay, well, at some point, maybe we can have it on the streets. We're not limiting it. It's just, this is how we started out this thing. We're starting out to have a discussion. We're trying to come up with a plan. The idea is to go through the rest of this stuff and then start trying to build a plan. And we've got now less than 2 hours here because we've gotten sidetracked, which is okay. But we have to try to figure out, the idea is that we wanted to leave tonight with something to take so we have something to get behind and push. Yes, ma'am.
Can I just say, this problem has been going on for what? How many years? 10, 20 years in Nashville? And you, longer than that? Okay, and you're giving us 6 hours to put a plan together. How about we have more time? How about another couple of these so that everybody can speak and everybody can put in their input instead of 6 hours to fix a 20-year problem?
Look, I didn't think we'd get 3 nights. We try to do 3 nights. This is a start. We said just a little while ago that we can have more of these meetings. So we're trying to get something started tonight. If we don't get anywhere tonight, then we'll call another meeting again and try it again. We weren't even sure if we could come up with a plan after 2 nights. But obviously we're what? So this is supposed to be a positive meeting. This is supposed to be, we are doing something finally to get, and I know it's 6 hours. I'm sorry. We can do lots more of these meetings if you want. We are trying to do something here that's positive. If you don't want to come up with a plan, then you don't have to be here. But if you want to have a plan, if you want to try to do something, if we want to try to accomplish something, then let's all work together and try to figure this out. Okay?
Hey, so I have a,
And I'm not going to take any more hands at this point. I'm going to finish my presentation so we can actually start working on a plan, which is what I thought we were supposed to do. Okay? If you look, if you don't want to be a part of this, then you don't have to be. But I thought everybody was here because they wanted to be a part of something bigger. Okay? Ma'am? We have said that we would schedule more of these things. Because one thing is that, I agree, 6 hours is almost impossible, but we want to do something. We want to get something started. And then we want to continue the momentum. And we'll continue to have these, and we can have them outside if you want. That's fine. But we have to start somewhere. And this was the start. Okay, I'm going to go through the housing options, and then I'm going to turn it over to Patsy.
I'm going to say one thing, I'm sorry, but actually I have met some people last night and tonight who were previously were homeless, and one of the suggestions that came out last night was to use people with that experience and that knowledge as outreach people, because they can go, that was your suggestion, so they have better rapport and can talk to the people experiencing homelessness as mentors to help people understand how to get to permanent housing and stay there. So that was certainly a suggestion, yes. So that would be a component in the plan.
All right, so I'm going to go over the housing options that you all put down yesterday. Not everybody agreed to all of them, but these are the things that you all put down in terms of different housing options for people to consider. 50% of all newly available MDHA units to be given to coordinated entry. 50%. If it's 2, then 1 goes. If it's 10, then 5 goes. But that's, somebody said 50%, I think another group said 45%, okay? Hotels. I know that we're using them now. There was a lot of emphasis in buying hotels, okay? Metro buying hotels and starting to use them for housing purposes, okay? Down here, increased funding for the Barnes Fund. So it's easy for us to talk about, we continue to put money into the Barnes Fund, but we also talked about accountability for those dollars being spent and results of whether it goes back to the gentleman in the blue cap, accountability for those funds. Are we putting stuff into the Barnes Fund, and are we getting stuff out of it that we really want, okay? I think we owe Reverend Barnes at least that much to make sure that we're doing something good with the funds that we're putting in there. Surplus Metro property, both land and buildings. The idea was to utilize if possible. Now, there's a lot of surplus Metro property. Some of it is claimed by different groups. So the schools have some property, Parks Department has some property. So some of that we can't get access to, but there's a lot of Metro property. And as Jay will tell you, if you start working on this, there are some surplus buildings that you can find that maybe we can turn into something, okay? So that was put up here as one of the housing options. The downtown proposed facility was supposed to be, I think, finished this month. It hasn't broken ground yet, okay? So one of the things is to put pressure and say, you know what? It's the 90 housing unit that is part of, that Metro has funding for right now. We just have not started building it yet, okay? So it was something that people mentioned at least on their sheets. Sanctioned encampments. I know that gets people on different wavelengths, but at this point, several groups put down sanctioned encampments. It's on the housing list. Depends on what you do in those encampments, whether you put pallet homes or other things, but that was also a housing option. More landlords accepting Section 8 housing. We've talked about that, using incentives for those landlords to try to get more folks to actually take those Section 8 housing. Yeah.
Okay, Section 8, that sounds great. MDHA sounds great. Those lists are never open to even get on the list.
So, understand. So I don't fully understand all that stuff either. I mean,
I got a letter from a housing authority today that I've been on for 2 years. They wanted to update my info. I said, how much longer will it be? I got told 2 to 4 more years. I'm on disability. The Section 8, that list, oh, you go to it, it's always closed, not accepting applications now. You can't even get on the list, much less get into one.
Well, and I think that's very important to know, okay? So we need more housing, we need more availability. And I don't know, I don't understand exactly the processes, but it's something to look into, okay? Somebody else had their hands up?
In defense of MDHA, I'm a success. I live at an MDHA property. It was the easiest thing to get into. All you have to do is like them on Facebook. You get notifications as far as when certain properties, their wait lists are opening up. Took me 7 months.
Like them on Facebook.
All right.
Who else had their hands up? I'm sorry, up here, okay, yeah.
Back here, Beth.
Hi there, I just want to quantify the need a little bit. The data committee of the Planning Council, in cooperation with the representative from the Corporation for Supportive Housing, estimated that over the next 5 years, we need about 17,800 units. About 2,400 of those should be permanent supportive housing. A little less than 12,000 could simply be permanent subsidies. A little under 4,000 should be rapid rehousing. That's in addition to the almost 36,000 units that the Affordable Housing Task Force estimated that we need over the next 10 years for folks making below 30% of area median. So I think we need to have some sense of the magnitude of the problem.
And those would be wonderful figures if you'll give them to us.
Hey, Mr. Vice Mayor, with the, two things. One, with the Section 8 landlords, again, that goes back to that mapping on knowing where you have things so you don't have unintended consequences of having several in one area like we do in Bordeaux. And the other thing is, with the quick wins, basically the stuff on the housing about the hotel and about the property downtown that's already pending, that hasn't broken ground, well, that is the quick win. So you can just put that there.
Okay. I got it. Keep that thought. All right. These are the last, I think these are the, yeah, this is the last page of housing options. So this was something new that somebody put down. It's a model transit facility. It's low barrier, some type of housing found in an industrial area, limited stay possibilities. I'm not exactly sure what this is. It could be, I don't know if we're talking about pallet homes. I'm not sure what this is, but it was intriguing when we saw it because it was something kind of new. And I'm not sure who put it there, but we listed it. Yes, sir. Okay, there you go.
We put that, that was one of our suggestions last night. If you were to put affordable housing or transient housing towards industrial areas, warehouses, Nolensville Road, Murfreesboro Pike, they have all these warehouses off side streets. Everybody doesn't want this in their backyard, but if you can put this where the businesses are, where the jobs are, they have access to jobs, it's on the transit line, and it will work. Most businesses are already secured enough where they won't have any break-ins from them, and there's plenty of jobs. We have a labor shortage, so the jobs are there for them. They can walk to the jobs. So we need that there, but also, what would be the incentive for Section 8 landlords versus Airbnb? If all these people here in Nashville can Airbnb or a house out, why would a landlord want to go through Section 8? So that's going to be another hurdle you would have to kind of tackle. That's just...
Okay, good point. This thing, thank you all for putting that on there because it was very interesting, okay? And thank you for talking about it because it raised lots of questions and issues, okay? Specific types of housing focused on needs was one of the things that I think people talked about yesterday. Creating 2,000 plus, I think Beth said it's what, 18,000 now? This is permanent supportive housing, diverse types and locations with ongoing support services. And then the last thing people put on their sheet was don't forget about the pets, okay? So, yeah, John. Okay. So we want to make a note of the Barnes Fund as well. So again, this is just what you all put down. This is, we tried to put it down in a more easy to read format so that we didn't put the same thing over and over again. Anything else that you wanted to add on this? Yeah.
Very unpopular opinion, I'm sure, but we're talking about MDHA and Section 8 housing, which is wonderful, and we definitely need more of that. But one of the things that I don't see on there is housing options for those who have no other housing options, those who are on the sex offender registry, those who have recent felonies, those who landlords don't want to take a chance on. We need to have incentives for them. We need to have a program for them. We need to have housing. Right now, if you're on the registry, you have 3 options for housing. And because of the current laws, they're restricted by how many they can have living in any one location. So basically, if you're on the registry right now, with the exception of staying at Room in the Inn, living at Casablanca, or living at Urban Housing's Mercury Court, you have no option but to camp. There is nothing. And that, I know it's not something that's popular to talk about. A lot of people don't want those individuals in their neighborhoods, but they deserve housing just as much as everyone else.
And that's on a list that came up last night, but we figured that was going to take a lot longer to talk about, and we're going to have to figure that one out.
It is, but unfortunately, we don't start talking
I know.
about it, it's never gonna get.
I understand. It's on the list. It's just we figured that we were going to have to put that to the side for a minute and figure out if we can get this one done. Okay. Anything else on this? Yes, sir. Respite housing? Oh, okay, okay. Like Glencliff? Yeah. I guess it's called respite housing because it's for people who have medical issues that need a place to rest. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anything else? Yes. Sure.
I was saying that in some states, they have what is called tiny houses. Is there some way that Tennessee can begin to build a community, maybe for sex offenders, their own community of tiny houses?
Yeah, that's.
I mean,
That's one of the things that should be looked at in tiny houses.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so there's pallet houses, but tiny houses is one of the ideas, so we put it on here.
But they have their own community.
Right.
That way, you're not in everybody's community if they don't want you there.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
It's a big room. Get my laps in. Just got my steps.
I don't know what the process is as we kind of end this section, but as we look at this very long and ambitious list, I think back to the point, this is a 20-year problem, and there is a broad, deep set of activities that are going to need to happen to solve it. I'd love for us to go back to what can be done in the next 60 days to actually move people from sleeping outside to sleeping inside. So because candidly, there's a lot of stuff on this list that is going to take much longer than 60 to 90 days. I'd love for at least a portion of this room to focus very specifically on what can we do with folks who are living in encampments, sleeping on the streets tonight, to get them moved indoors in a very short window.
So there was one more question, but that's the lead-in. That's the lead-in. So I will just tell you again, what this was for was we took everybody's stuff from yesterday and tried to make sure that we had basically all of it in one place so we could put it in the plan. But the hardest part is what you're talking about. That is, again, short-term and long-term. That's what we were talking about last night. That's where we head. One more question? Yeah, way in the back.
Have we discussed housing options for elderly people who are sick? I know a lot of times in my line of work, I come across people who are in and out of the hospitals, and they actually do have serious illnesses. But because of certain guidelines, like I know one time the Section 8 vouchers weren't available to people 65 and up, or there's other things that are preventing them from getting help, and they're unfortunately getting extremely sick and passing away because there's no options for elderly homeless people. So I think we should really try to focus on, put
Okay.
some more energy on that as well.
So we can put respite and we can put elderly on there as well, okay?
I'm sorry. I don't know where the microphone.
I've got one in my hand.
Are we still going? Okay. Here we go.
Jay has one.
Yeah, I'm getting my laps.
All right.
Let's go.
Hey, I'm Lillian Weist with Volunteer Coordinator with Layman Lessons. One of my thoughts was if we could find an empty building tomorrow. Most of our people out in the camps in the woods work. They've all mostly got jobs. If you put some supplies and tools in their hand, let them start doing the partitions, an empty warehouse, that will be immediate and get them in the housing. They want to work. Alfonso, some of you know Alfonso. Every Saturday we go out. I want to work. God created you to work, not to hand out. But I promise you, if you give them the tools, might have to monitor it, make sure they're able to use the power tools. But if you go to some of these encampments, they are very creative. You would not believe some of the encampments. When the apocalypse happens, I'm going to their camp.
I had there was a question about how long have we been talking about this, how many years. I can go back 36 years, and in those 36 years, there were conversations like this, but only a dozen people came. And so this is a positive influence that we're this large and committed. And what I have to say is just practically more philosophical. It has to do with life expectancy. And the issue, as we know with the homeless and those that are unhoused, is the crisis of homelessness, is the crisis of death. We're talking about death and people who are on the verge of death, and they don't have the resources that we know they need, and we want to work and commit to doing that. About 20 years ago, Dr. Cliff Metters was a chief of staff at St. Thomas Hospital. He gave a talk on life expectancy, and he used the graph to show something very simple. He said, this line, you can see me in the back, this line is 100 years old. This is 100. And this line is the quality of life, and that this be 100. And he said 3 points. Those who have the most live the longest. You follow me? Those who have the most live the longest. That's 1 point. Secondly, he said, those who know the most live the longest. I'm diabetic, and I know more about taking care of myself, so I may be on the verge of living longer, I hope. And those two, those who have the most and those who know the most, those 2 points almost seem self-evident. But there was a third point he made, which I hadn't thought about. And he said, those who are socially bonded live the longest. Those who are socially bonded live the longest. And so what we're trying to do today is to create a plan that is completely comprehensive in its education and teaching and helping people move into a better way of life. We're talking about a plan that will be backed up with really accountable resources, not just nickel and dime funding. And so we need that. And then we need to start again bringing them into our lives. We let them in encampments, and they may want to stay there, but we have to be gracious and hospitable and invite them into our lives.
Did somebody, one more? Hi,
If y'all can't hear me, I'll try to talk loud.
we got it, we can hear you.
I'm Jesse with the Salvation Army. I just wanted to say on a couple of different things there for help. So the biggest thing is that the clients that we encounter is they need a restoration of hope. They're hopeless. They don't think that anything is going to get better. And so when we wrote down quick wins, I know there's been some. Quick wins means that we may not be able to get them into an apartment tomorrow. That would be great if we could. But we can do some other things, like we can get them food stamps, we can get them different things like that. Something that shows them that we can get results for them and we can help them achieve their own goals and their own results. So I think that that's what quick wins means for people that are.
Thank you.
And the thing is, a lot of people probably think that the affordable like Casey Place. Well, unfortunately, I've lost track of that client, or that client may have moved to somewhere else. But I have 20 people behind me that would love to move into this apartment today, and they're ready. But we're not using that coordinated entry system to identify the people that are ready to move into housing. We're just kind of winging it. So I think that we can do better there.
Like I said, we tried to I'm sorry. Do you have a question?
Thank you. After you have done this total compilation, so that everybody has input and everybody has opportunity to rank each one, sending out all of the information, so you don't have time to do it at this point, but each person with the email or with each person with some contact, to rank those, if you have, say, 30, as it looks like you might have that many, and rank them 1, 2, 3 through 30, then you come back with your numbers that are the top 15 and subdividing them into long-term and short-term immediate gratification. That way you will have a full composite of everyone that is here with their direct emphasis as to which is the most important and which are the long-term and which are the short-term. That way you'll have a composite of everything that we've done, and everybody's information would be garnered into one aspect for us to look at.
Yes.
My question is, corporate and private businesses, are they working with us to get this done? Are they partners with us? Corporate and private businesses, are they working with us to eliminate this problem?
To some extent, yes, and to some extent, probably not.
Have we made an effort to contact them and work with them and get their support?
That's certainly part of the political will, the community support thing is to get, I think it helps if you go to a corporate, entity with, this is the help we need. So the more we can identify what is the specific help we need, I think that may be a good way to do it too. But yes, that's part of the whole plan.
I think we should make a bigger effort to work with them. I think, they got the money and then so if we're not working with corporate American private organizations and businesses, we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
And if we can convince them it's a good neighbor policy for the people coming in particular and everything, that it's a good thing. All right, next part, but I think I'm going to change here. But the next part was to organize all those things into these categories. And so the first one was finding or creating additional housing opportunities to get people indoors quickly. So I'm not talking about moving to a different camp or those things. I'm talking about how to get them into someplace quickly. And the other part of it is these systems we've all been talking about and the coordinating the systems and making them work better. Once you have a place to put them, you've got to have better systems to get the right people in the right places. So I've organized them all just from the things that Jim went over in here. I think if you all want to do this, it might be a good idea to focus on exactly what you said, which was, let's identify the things, okay, thank you. I couldn't remember which person back there. Let's identify the things that could happen as quickly as possible to start getting people into indoors, wherever that is. For example, inventory Metro-owned vacant property. We talked about that last night. That needs to start happening now. That inventory is probably not going to be complete for 90 days or whatever. And assess each kind of building and what it could be used for. If there's a way to, for one group of people even, one success, one win, how can we identify immediately property that can be used immediately before you have an inventory of everything? They haven't, exists, yes, okay. But I don't know well, I imagine, for example, MDHA may not be on there because they're a whole different kind of entity. School board. Yeah, empty buildings, empty lots, empty everything. Okay, great. So we don't have to do an inventory, but somebody needs to assess what they could be used for, right? And what costs might be in renovating or whatever. But in the meantime, Jay has to do that. Okay, good. All right, we did that one. We made that recommendation. Transitional housing, and for this, again, I don't know some of the terms of art. I don't know what some of the programs are that you all have talked about. But so when I say transitional housing, I'm talking about a roof. And I don't know, it could be, tiny houses and pallet houses. And where do you put them? And, how do you get them there? And all that needs to be figured out. Supportive housing, shelters. And we all talked about all the services that need to be provided in any of those places. I don't care what kind of place it is, if it's transitional housing. And then the hotels thing is in there. So do you want to switch to, what can we do that something could happen next week? I mean, do you want to switch to what can we do right now? What can they do? Not us, we can't do it. But what can we ask the decision makers to do that could help some people who are outside, starting tomorrow? Yes.
I just wanted to say, when we got the rapid rehousing program going last December, we literally moved, what was it, Tiffany? How many people did we move in Jesse? 100 people into a hotel within 1 week. I mean, we had the roadway in, we moved them in within a week. And
So
all
so was that still going on? I mean, why did that stop?
So, no, some of the rapid rehousing is going. It takes money because we went in and we paid the rent. But that's because a private individual owns that hotel, right?
Yeah.
So if the city bought a hotel, I mean, the nonprofits can go to the camp, do HMIS, and move them in within a week. It can happen.
But we
how
have
long to have the hotel.
How long is it going to take for the city to buy the hotel, right? So that's something they should be working on, but what can we do that's even shorter term?
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah, just get right to occupy the hotel. Okay, did you get that? Yeah, some way to acquire, or somebody, because somebody in Metro knows what's out there, somebody in Metro knows there's a building, maybe, that Metro already owns, that could be, with help from people who are experiencing homelessness, as somebody said, converted. Yes? Yes. But it's state-owned? It's state-owned? Yeah. Well, we could try to get the state to give it to us or sell it to us cheaply. Yeah. You're right, at some of those residential schools that were run by the state, there's dorms there, there's some sort of living facility. Okay. To get that, there are two, I'm sorry, I think the other mic, where's the other mic? Do you have it, Jim? No, Jay has it.
Who needs it? I was trying not to put a conversation. This is the other Jay.
Yes, I know. Okay, yeah. She was saying, I can repeat what she said. There are two hotels for sale right now on Murfreesboro Road. Who do we get to look at that, Jim?
There's two hotels. It's on Murfreesboro Road where Spence Lane joins Murfreesboro Road, right there at the 2440.
Yeah, they're for sale.
They're both for sale. Two full hotels empty right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. We just, right, somebody in Metro just needs to find the person who goes and gets all that information. Yeah. Who goes tomorrow to get that information. I'm sorry, then you.
So, my name is Jay Voorhees. I'm part of City Road Chapel, where we're putting together a housing navigation center. One of the things we've run into, a lot of folks are saying, well, we've got empty buildings we can use. And our church, we had lots of space that we could use, so we did this. But what we've discovered is that buildings that are not created as residential run into codes and fire marshal and life safety issues. And so it's not necessarily easy to get that. You can't just move people in tomorrow under the current zoning. And so part of what we need probably some legislation at some point that designates a waiver of some of the codes or some adjustments to the codes for temporary transitional housing, those kinds of things. We're doing it, and it's going to happen, and we're happy, and I'm not complaining, but I just want to say that we had hoped to open in October. We will probably open December 20th. So that's kind of what we've had to do to navigate that.
There are sometimes things. I'm sorry, you were going to be next. I'm sorry, they can't hear you.
I don't know if anybody in the room is a member of ULI, the Urban Land Institute. That's who you need to talk to. Because that's the architecture community and developers, it's everybody.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't know the name, you're right. Urban Legends Institute.
Urban Land Institute.
Urban Land Grant, thank you. Urban Legends is something else, isn't it?
Institute.
I'm getting too tired.
One of the things we need to make sure is that we don't set up a situation for immediate failure that squishes the community's will to back it. So when we're doing a rapid housing, whether it be in a hotel or wherever, we absolutely must make the commitment from day one to have the on-site security and the services that are needed. We can't just say, okay, we've got a hotel, we're going to move a bunch of folks in. We're setting ourselves up for not only failure today, but to squish a program because there won't be the community will later. So we have to make sure that along with those 30 rooms, 100, whatever it is, that we have the services there immediately along with it. So therefore, we can build small successes that can continue to build, and we can keep the community will and along with that, the willingness to put the money and the effort and the sacrifice it's going to take for this. I just don't want us to think, oh, gee, we got 100 rooms, hallelujah, let's put folks in. That's doomed for failure. So we have to make sure we have that dual emphasis, having the services, having the security on site to be able to do that.
I have just a quick question, I guess. It seems like whenever developers come in and they want to change zoning and codes, it can get done pretty easily. So once again, back to the political will. People from Metro Council are here. I know you guys have voted to rezone things, so why don't we get this going? We keep saying, who from the city is going to do this? Who's going to do this? The city is here. You're the vice mayor, people here on council, there's other people from the current office, I don't know what it's called, but I mean, what are we doing? Metro owns all these places, there is the money if we have the political will. And these people are dying and they're on the streets. And we're all sitting in here talking about this big plan and right now people are dying. So, yeah, rezoning is possible. If there's legislation that needs to happen, then let's do it. Like all these small roadblocks that keep popping up are killing people.
I did, excuse me, hi. I did want to add with the rapid rehousing program, not only does it allow people to come in, but as a case manager myself, and seeing other familiar faces, we do offer those wraparound services in rapid rehousing. There is a case management there. There is people who are helping folks get connected with various services, especially health care and mental, and that does, of course, include mental health, as well as food, job resources. I mean, I could be here all for the rest of the week describing the many things that do offer. So when we do bring up rapid rehousing, there is already that services there that is providing wraparound services and helping folks that are experiencing homelessness getting connected to those resources that help address the various barriers to housing. So already we have, not only do we move folks into a motel situation, there is also the case management involved that does help further. Yes, because literally my team, yes. Yes, when someone comes into rapid rehousing, once they move into that motel program, then yes, that's when we hit the ground running and we start addressing the permanent barriers to housing, whether that is getting connected with the job, whether that is getting connected to anything, and then getting them into a permanent housing to where they are stable and they can maintain that without spending the metro dollars that you are referring.
Okay, I just heard, well, she said, what can we do to get somebody this week? And I'm thinking, since there's encampments already, and people probably are distrustful of people in these encampments, why not make their lives more comfortable in the encampments? You could have those heaters, those propane heaters, maybe some type of like a larger tent to where they can stay away from the rain. They can put their tents under that. But to make them comfortable, like that woman in here tonight who was very upset, she was obviously uncomfortable. And when you feel uncomfortable, you're a lot more short-tempered. So I think something like immediate like that could be helpful.
That would be that would
go here. Okay.
I was just gonna say, that's something that may be non-profit.
There you go.
Okay, this is a small conversation, maybe everybody could,
Another immediate thing you could do is what they were talking about earlier with the shelters. You could opening the shelters at 32 or even 40 degrees. They said it's not very comfortable to sleep outside in 40 degrees. Open the shelters, save lives.
Hello. With all due respect, with all that's been shared here this evening, I'm late getting here, but I have lived in Green Hills the bulk of my life. I moved there at age 21, and I'm in my 60s now, okay? This has never been a subject of conversation. I acquired a property in the Enchanted Hills area, what was it, William, 3 years ago? And we have a dump there that was not supposed to be there. That was supposed to have closed, what was it, 20 years ago? It's still there. There's I think a drug rehab center that was built just down the street. And now we're talking about bringing all of these developments into the community that's devaluing our home properties and not escalating our home properties. And my only question is, what is the reasonable, sensible rationale for this? If someone could answer that for me, I certainly would appreciate it. Thank you.
John F. Kennedy said that more than, 50, 60 years ago. That's all is irrelevant. It has absolutely nothing to do with the here and now. Again, my question is, why is all the garbage being bought down the street from where I live? That's all I'm asking. No, let me finish, please. Let me finish, please. I live in, may I finish? I'll let you finish. I live in Green Hill from early 80s to 3 years ago. And none of
Don't leave, Ginger. I want you to hear me.
Don't leave. Hill for 3 years. We have a dump that we never supposed to do there. We have a gun range, an outdoor gun range. I want you to hear me. Where I'm constantly hearing gunshots all night long, all day long. When in Green Hills, if you discharge a firearm, you would go to jail. My question is, why is all of this garbage being bought to Enchanted Hills, other than the fact that it is roughly, what is it, William, 80, 90% African American with a representation of persons like yourself who are defending these behaviors? That's all of my question. Just answer that question.
I'm sorry, she's not the one to answer, I think. No, it's about, first of all, I don't think anybody here has suggested that anything go to a particular place. So I'm not sure what, okay, he's gone.
All right, I'll just, maybe I can speak to.
You go.
Okay, so I talked to this guy named Jacob at an organization called lifemoves.org. He's out in Palo Alto. I know a lot of people in this room are probably just like me. You're trying to find solutions. And I called him because everybody has their ideas of what's going to work and what's not going to work. Well, the only way to find out if something works is to find something that did work. He's got 100 pallet shelters, just like the ones Jay bought for COVID. 100 of them. Now, they have other shelters, too. They've got places like Room at the Inn. They've got a hotel. They've got all kinds of things. But this was the most recent one they did. And they found he told me it was an old automotive restoration place, so it's a flat piece of parking lot. They put 100 shelters on there. I had one question because he didn't give me a whole lot of time. I said, are they full? And he said, yes. And I said, how did you know it was going to work? He said, we didn't. But I got to tell you, we dreamed it up. We thought about it like a college dorm. And when the people started moving in, it was glorious. They've got 80 of them for 2 people, and they've got 20 of them for families. They've got people in there with kids, people in there with pets. That's just one place I talked to today. So I totally understand that transitional housing has not worked in the past, but I believe it hasn't worked in the past because it wasn't done properly. And now that I've made friends with a lot of these outreach organizations, I realize there's so many components. It's not just putting a roof over their head. So that's at the end of that. But I want to just leave on one thing. If we're looking for a big win tonight, it would just be, I think, so joyful for everybody if we could walk out of this room tonight and be able to tell somebody who wasn't in here what we accomplished and how they could help. I formed a team of people, and we found out what our strengths were. Mine was going to find pallet shelter type communities. I don't care if it's not the answer. If it's not the answer and a motel is, that's fine. We just got to get them out of the encampments. We got to get them the help. So maybe what we can talk about is how we set up, Jim, how we set up a way for all of us to contribute in different areas. Because whilst I'm not very well versed in one area that someone else is, I certainly can contribute. And there are people at home right now who will want to hear from me, and they will want to contribute.
So I don't know how we're going to do that, but maybe we can figure out a way to develop a website where we can all pipe in and sign up and join committees or something like that.
Let me just say, I mean, Pallet, what is it, community?
Pallet Shelters.
Pallet Shelters.
Is the website. On there, they have case studies that you can go to, and then all you got to do is start Googling. And
Well, what I was going to say is that's one there are several alternatives. So it's not right, it's not wrong. It's just somebody needs to figure out what are the best alternatives that are available and start doing it.
I just kind of want to go back to the hotel situation. I know that it's brought a lot of negativity from some people in the room that think that it might not be the best idea. And sure, it might not be in the best area of town. But I can tell you right now, the 150 people that we have put in there since December of last year that are walking out of that hotel into apartments that are paid for by Section 8 vouchers, how can I go to them and tell them that it wasn't good? It wasn't a good thing for the community. I have stories like a veteran that I'm working with that I deeply love. His name is Jake. He was reunited with his family, but sometimes that doesn't work. And matter of fact, tomorrow afternoon, I get to go and help Jake sign a lease to his very own apartment, all because that hotel took him off the streets out of Brookmead Park and put him in the hotel, and tomorrow I'll sign his lease to his forever home.
I'll make this real quick. When we're talking about affordable housing, let's really make sure it's affordable, because we have to understand that we have all these high-priced apartments that are being rented out $1,500, $2,000, $2,100, and people are not making that kind of money. We can get them in the houses, but they need to be able to stay in the houses. And you even have people that's living in subsidized housing now that need to be able to stay in their houses. So I think we need to look at the totality of it when it comes to paying for these things.
Thank you. I got the last one. I don't see a lot of immediate successes coming out of this meeting. I mean, we've been fighting this fight for years, decades. I just don't see it happening overnight. The people who are out there tonight and who are going to be out there all winter long, they do need your help. I appreciated what that man said about there are people out there, we can make their lives a little more comfortable now. We're not going to move them all instantaneously out of them. Another thing I wanted to mention was Green Street Church off of Hermitage. I've been out there the last 5 days just really seeing this. And if you want to see what a micro-housing site here in Nashville would look like, I would recommend that you somehow look it up on your phone and get around to seeing what Green Street, what they've done is what I really think Nashville can do and replicate. So please, I want to encourage you to go see Green Street Church and see what they've got.
I'm sorry, and John had asked me earlier.
Yes, I got one.
Okay, you got one.
So I know we're talking about immediate wins here, and I think that it's important to look to the power that we do have in the room here. And we need to talk about money, right? How we're going to pay for this. I think that the decision makers that are in this room have access to, I'm a marketing guy, right? So I think that, I think we have the emails of probably 100,000 people in this room, I bet you. And I think that if we had a coordinated fundraising push, I presented this plan to the Continuum of Care. I labeled it just to brand it, but you know, it doesn't have to be called whatever you want. But I think if everybody in this room tomorrow sent out a coordinated marketing effort to all of their email lists and all their funding streams, I think we could raise quite a bit of money immediately to make some of these things happen.
Yeah, I think we just have to tell people what it's going for.
That's right.
Exactly. So a more specific kind of thing. All right, now, are we going to go back to the plan? Yes, no? Okay, good. So we were talking about what can we do short term. I think everybody had already agreed that these were good ideas as Jim went through them. And like transition housing, there's alternatives. There's lots of ways to do it, and I don't think we should be stuck with one way, but somebody has to assess the different things and come up with the right mixture. But can we do that instead of waiting until there's some huge plan for however many shelters that we start somewhere? Yes.
I just want to put him on the spot because.
I'm sorry, he has.
I know that he and I have talked extensively about it, and he's in a new role temporarily, but he needs the mic. Oh, you've got your mic. Okay, there you go.
So plans are being worked, and I know this is okay, so anyway, I'm Jay Survey. I'm the interim homeless impact director. I'm a fourth generation survey that works in the homeless community. So I'm very passionate about it, so we won't go there. But the thing that I've done since we've been there is made relationships with major contractors that come in and buy hotels. And they'll buy them 2, 3, 4 at a time, and then we can rapid rehouse folks in that situation to find permanent housing. While we're rapid rehousing those folks, they are revamping those hotels and putting kitchenettes in them, and then it's their permanent housing. And with that comes all the wraparound services, right? So permanent supportive housing is a term that I've learned in the past month, right? Yay, okay, no, nothing, okay. And we will looking into that direction. So things are happening. The thing that I've promised that I was going to do when I said yes to this opportunity was to be more transparent with information. So that will be coming out of our office, and you can ask anybody that's in our office. What I've done the past 3 weeks is get on board with public information so that we can share what's happening and where we are. Not that I can solve homelessness. I'm not going to do it by myself, because homelessness is a community response. It's government, it's private, it's business, it's nonprofits coming together and getting on a mission and succeeding. So that's where we are on different things. I'm not saying that's just one element of everything that you're talking about for the plan tonight, but know that those things are happening, but it takes a minute to get them moving, right? So Shangri-La is the name of that company, so you know that you can look them up, and they come in and they buy those hotels in multiples and do that. So, and then the tiny houses and the communities, we're looking at opportunities for that. Because I have pallet shelters, which are like the micro homes and setting up in communities as transition to get them ready for permanent supported housing. So things are in the works. It just takes time. So I think, would people agree that Metro needs to be more transparent with information, right? So I feel that coming from, our family was saved by the Salvation Army. So I understand this, correct? So I think that transparency is going to help you all call or email whatever nonprofit I'm working with, and they get with me, and then we get together and we go, right? So the immediate need are those encampments. It's cold, right? It's cold, man. So we got to get something moving for those folks. I agree with that. So there you go. And we need money, and we need coordinated effort with the money. We don't just need money and start throwing it somewhere. We don't need to throw money. We need to plan money, right? So there you go. Absolutely. Yep.
The short term is the immediate thing, and distributors of products, supplies, needed things. I'm a frontline guy. I work with at least 3 different, I'll call them ministries, because we're not ashamed of Jesus' edict to, if you've done it to the least of these, you've done it to me. That's Jesus' mandate. That's why we do it. I work with Reckless Love, with the Joshua movement, and my own new thing called the Sound Gospel Ship. It's not just about the gospel, but it's about supplying needs. And I collect them, we give them away, we give them for free. We're frontline distributors. I'm in the camps praying and talking and getting acquainted with people. It's like Tiffany. Is that you, Tiffany? Oh, hi, Tiff. Nice to see you. So there are frontline people available. Donations come by guess what? The wish list on Amazon is sending us products to our homes, and we take a right and give them to the homeless. That's immediate needs being met. Tents, sleeping bags, heat, propane, etc. That's what we're doing right now. Thank you. Thank you, buddy.
I just wanted to make a comment. I did come in late. A lot of you all might be familiar with the news. On June 28, 2021, my nephew was killed by a train. He was homeless by choice. He was living in a camp by choice. He was 2 miles from his house. But you know what was wrong with him? He had mental illness. Until we address those mental illness, until we address those drugs addiction, until we address the people that know how to balance a check to pay a bill, it's not going to work. You can put them in a house. You can take them to the house. You can let them build the house. Until you educate them on how to pay their bills, how to go and get mental health, to make sure they take their medicine that they need to take. My nephew got over $6,000 a month. A month. But he didn't know what to do with it. He shouldn't have been on the street, but he was on the street. So if we put him in a house, we give him a tent, what they gonna do with it? So what? We got to educate them. We can build a house. We can build it now. What they gonna do with it? I purchased a tent for a young lady a year ago. Guess what? I still got it because she never came back. We got to address these mental illness. It's serious. It's serious. Until we address them, it's going to continue to be a problem. And it's all our problem. Because if you let them build a code and put a skinny house on top of a skinny house, we can get a house bill and we can get these codes done where we can get the people off the street. But we got to educate them when we put them in their houses.
And that's, you weren't here earlier, but that's part of the plan of these education and job training and mental health and everything, yeah.
So he gets dropped. Thank you. So truly, and nobody likes to hear this, I know, you're all going to freak out, but we need to reinstate state hospitals, sanctuaries, asylums. Don't be afraid of the word. It can be done right, and it doesn't have to be in Davidson County. Let's think outside of the county. I know Giles and Cannon County are bleeding people because they don't have work, so they're coming here. They're coming here. Why not open a small pilot program coupled with work? Someone mentioned work. These people who are mentally ill need purpose, need those wraparound services right there in that facility. We need to really, because I guarantee you 50%, if not more, of these homeless people are mentally ill. And you can put them in a room, put them in a hotel, but they will fall through the cracks. They will. My son currently is homeless. We need help. I need help. We put our Alzheimer elderly people in nursing homes. This is a brain disorder. Give them sanctuary. Bring back sanctuaries.
I'm sorry, has anybody seen Jim Schulman? I've lost him. Oh, there he is out there. Okay, I see him. Go ahead. I lost him for a minute. Go ahead.
I'm a little confused about where we are. Because
Me
what
too.
I understood was that last night, people had small group discussions and came up with all these things that were good suggestions. And it sounds like we're recreating last night. Now, not that all these things are not important. All these things are critically important. All the personal stories, that's what gives fire to what we need to do. But how do we get beyond this? How do we get back to this plan that I understood we were trying to get? So I guess I'm just confused about where we're wanting to go. Are people wanting to get back to the plan? Is that something we want to do? All right, that was very mealy-mouthed. Do you really want to get back to a plan, or just want to sit and talk tonight? All right. Okay, anybody in favor of a plan, say yes. All right, who's going to run it? Where's Jim Schulman when you need him?
So Mike, tell me what you just said since I was out there trying to figure out where we go in the next.
Jim, I was saying I didn't know where to go, and it sounded like we were recreating what happened last night. And I was wondering if we wanted to move toward a plan tonight, or if we just wanted to go ahead and tell stories, as important as the stories are.
Right.
And
Well,
so
so-
Everybody said,
yeah.
yes, let's move on a plan.
Well, so here's the suggestion. So we don't have a lot of time left. Last night was all focused trying to come up with specific short-term and long-term plans. What we got was some really good ideas, but we didn't get specific enough in terms of the short-term and long-term as we were looking at it. Short-term meaning, which is what Patsy was trying to do, and that is, what can we do like right now, the next 30, 60, 90 days? And then what can we do long-term? And obviously this is kind of morphed into lots of stories and good things, but we don't have a plan that we're ready to implement. And I don't think we can necessarily come up with one in the next 30 minutes that we're all comfortable with. So the idea was to do a couple of things tonight, and we'll see what you all want to do. One is that we can go ahead right now, and we can start talking to Jay and folks about more motel capacity. We can start looking into the hotels that are for sale, the two, and we can start actually doing that right now. We can take that up to the mayor's office and say, this group basically has been talking about motels. What are the possibilities? And we can report back and let you all know about that. There was talk outside and talk in here about the 28 degrees. We'd have to talk to Jay, but we tried a long time ago to raise it to 32. It ought to be 32. It ought to be higher than that, okay? But remember, incremental change, sometimes you have to do that. I mean, you know, it'd be nice to raise it to 40 degrees, but at this point it's 28. So the idea is, can we raise it to 32? And what are the possibilities of doing that, and what's it going to cost, and do we have the resources? So we can take a certain number of things and start doing it. We've got pallet homes that are ready to go. We've got things like that. We can do some short-term stuff based upon a lot of your comments tonight and some of your comments last night. What I don't think we can do tonight is develop a plan in the next 30 minutes that everybody can get behind and then push. So it seems to me that what we need to do is come back here in several weeks and try it again. I wasn't sure whether after last night and after looking at it, I loved a lot of the ideas, but I didn't see specific enough plans to go, I think we're going to come out with something tonight. And we didn't fail. We just try again. We set goals, but we try again. So again, the idea would be, there are some things we can do right now if you all are comfortable with it, and we'll keep you informed. But in terms of coming up with a plan, like Mike is talking about, that's what the whole idea was for. We're not there yet, based upon just listening to the conversation. I don't see us ready to implement a plan in the next 30 minutes, short-term or long-term. I know we have people out there in the cold. We have to keep moving. We have to keep moving forward, but I'm not willing to give up. I hope you all are not either, okay? So let me take some questions. Yes, in the back. Jay's got one.
Yep.
Hey, what's up? My name is Edward. I use he, him pronouns. I'm from Open Table, Nashville. I don't know if there was an agenda or anything like that, so I don't want to overstep and kind of like take over the meeting in any kind of real way. But I do think that we are kind of moving towards a direction, at least it seemed like, from what I initially heard from the beginning. It seems as though we're trying to like categorize these things a little bit. And I think we should take those different categorizations that we have and see if we can make, and I know that some people might feel weird about this because that word can be a little scary, but since we do, I at least heard a little bit of people wanting to meet again, possibly making committees that can like propose and like properly demonstrate real plans that can meet on their own time, and then we can come back, present these plans, and properly vote to implement our plan that we keep talking about that doesn't actually exist. Just an idea,
I mean, I'm fine. If people, obviously we want everybody to leave here and keep working on this. You can do it by committees if we want. We can send out an email because we got everybody's email. and we can see what you're interested in. But if you're going to do it, we want people to participate, but we want everybody to be heard. We want people to be heard. That's why we had the ground rules for this thing, was to keep the thing moving. Becky, I'll go here, and then I'll start moving around. You want to? Sure. You can give them to me over the next couple of weeks. I'm easy to find, so you can send them to me. What I want is, the whole purpose behind this was enough talk, let's figure something out. We had a lot of talk tonight. We haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm not willing to stop. I'm willing to keep going. Yes, sir. Things passed by the Metro Council? Some might. And you've got members here, and so we'll have to figure out. A true plan, at least in my mind, would be we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. And some of it may mean, if we're going to do this, we have to get an ordinance passed by the Metro Council. Let's push. But some of it, you don't need the council's help. You may need some of the money for it. All this stuff, no, a lot of the stuff we can do just by having a plan, which is what this was all about. Some of it you may not need the council's help.
That's a real elephant in the room. A lot of us, most of us in here are benevolent, and we want to do the right thing in that area. But most of our constituents in the community we live, they do not vote these.
So that's all. That's understood. I understand. So we go in with an understanding of what of what the realities are. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Hey, so I think I heard a minute ago, like, why are we here? We keep going on and on and on. I know a lot of y'all, I've been on the street for a while with my nonprofit, but now I work with Salvation Army. And I believe that we can all agree that housing is the main thing. That's what we want. Whether we have to get them to rehab first, fine, we can still get them into housing. But it's like we need more people out there on the field. It's like, that's the thing. There's so many and we see it and it's great. I used to pass out blankets and, Papa, I used to pass out the blankets and do all that. But now I'm, able to go through other resources because of where I'm employed. And that's where it's at. That's where we're seeing lives changed, and because of that, we're coaching them. We're not just putting them into a hotel. I want to go back on that because it's something. We have a limited amount. We're not overwhelmed, but we're coaching them how to get through life. So talking about these other hotels that are coming available, y'all just think about it. Don't go by what you heard, but maybe talk to some of us that have people in hotels, like Raven and Rachel, and I know Open Table, and also PLNs around here too, but everyone has it here. But I think the main thing here is we all want them in housing. That's why we're sharing our stories. We all have a heart for them, but we all have different reasons why we're here. We love what we're doing. And so I think that's why it keeps going around. It's just the passion.
Well said. Jay, you're next.
Jim, I'd like to offer a quick proposal because I think it would be good if we felt like we walked away from here at least doing one thing. And so what I've heard again repeatedly is this issue about the 32 degrees for the emergency weather shelter. Do we agree that everybody in this room are stakeholders in the issue of homelessness in this community? Can we come to a consensus as a group to say we want to advocate to the Homeless Impact Division, to the mayor, to whoever, to raise the emergency weather shelter temperature to 32 degrees? Is there? Okay, so through the power of this group, if you could share that with the powers that be.
Let me ask in reverse. Does anybody have a problem with that?
Okay. And I think there's a second thing we
Okay.
can do very
Hold
quickly.
on, I got one person who has at least an explanation.
I have a problem with that. If we didn't have the people on the streets or in the camps, then we wouldn't have to move them inside when it's cold. So we need to eliminate the camps as a solution. I'm embarrassed. That's the best we can do. Honest to God, 30 years, and this is where we're at. That's our one option. Everybody's hanging on to it. The support in this room for the camp is unbelievable. I don't know why. And I don't want to hear there's no place to go because we just talked about millions of places to go.
Thank you.
And that's what I think.
Okay.
I think, Jim, that we actually probably have a little bit more of a consensus to go with than just that. I think that, how does anyone against asking MDHA to turn, we can shoot high 50%, but asking them to turn some of those units over to coordinated entry? Okay, is there anyone against that? So there's two immediate wins, right? It's gonna take a mixture of things. Is anyone against asking them to have Shangri-La come in and buy the Super 8 and turn that into, housing? Okay, so there's three, right? So that might not be immediate, but man, you can turn motel rooms into permanent, you can turn them fast. You can start turning them within 3 weeks, right? Those things can be turned. Is anyone against asking the city to get this 190 unit going, okay? So that's gonna be 2 years down the road, but we can get it going, right? So there's another 90. Okay, so this one's a little hard for me because I'm not really into the pallet shelters as a permanent solution. And I am worried that people will get stuck there. And I don't want people getting stuck there. They can move through there, right? They're stuck in the encampments. So is anyone against asking Jay to put some of these on property that he already has for the nonprofits to help, as long as we say people will move through there? Put a limit on it, right? So there's another immediate solution. I don't want to walk out of here either going, the best thing we got is asking, I'm chair of the shelter committee, right? I don't want to have that be the thing we come out of here with, all right? So let's talk about all these creative solutions. Hell, I looked up you could turn a bus into an apartment, right? You can take school buses and turn them into apartments. They're a little more expensive than the pallet shelters, though, but they are kind of nice. But anyway, then last night we talked about these great things like co-ops where people build things. Now, it's a given for all of you worried about supportive housing. There was just a grant came through. We got part of it, Salvation Army got part of it, to help people stay into housing. They help us pay for staff to help people stay into housing. So we're getting that part covered, but we can't keep them in housing unless we have housing. We need to create housing, and we need to create lots of different kinds. So that needs to be part of this plan, and we need to come out of here tonight with those things.
So I think hopefully we've taken most of the notes on it.
Yeah?
I think,
MDHA, the hotel with Shangri-La, pallet shelters.
yeah, Kathy, just go up there and write them on the sheet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go write them up.
All right.
Okay, so again, this is what we're doing tonight, but we're going to ask you to come back. It doesn't mean that we're stopping. It means that we're going to keep working on some of these things. And we may come back a little differently next time with maybe something like a sort of a plan, and then let you all throw things at that. But the idea is to keep at it. We've spent 30 years at this. We don't have a plan, but it's time to have a plan. Okay? Okay. Here you go.
Yeah, I was just, so thank you, because I think that's exactly what this group needed, is that, tangible set of things that we all agree to. I think we've been talking about over the last 2 days. I think the thing that, I would submit, I don't think we are in agreement with, and I would prefer that in the name of human beings, we not invest a lot of time, and that is sanctuary camps that keep people living in cold temperatures on the ground in subhuman conditions where people are dying there. Please, let's invest the time to actually get people into shelter.
Yeah. There's a grassroots movement here. To keep it, we have to do relational and connectivity. Does anybody have a master list of all these compassionate people and what you do and what you can do? Is there a master list?
So there's a master list of everybody who came to this. One of the things that we've been talking about is trying to get a meeting of all trying to get a meeting of all the advocacy groups, because the way this thing started actually was that people were mad at each other over something involving COVID, and they were yelling at me, and so I finally had enough and said, why don't we all sit down together and talk? And then when we all sat down, nobody knew each other. When you don't know each other, you can't have a conversation. It's much easier to put everybody at the table. That's where this idea came from, was to bring everybody to the table.
Which leads to my takeaway.
Okay.
Rather than just waiting on the legislation to pass about the homeless impact division conversion and all of that, we can at least have that temporary, well, that'd be his job. We can at least have that be the quarterback to at least get one database of all the persons that each nonprofit has, to where you have one database of people. That way, when we do start getting MDHA cooperation and all of that, you can have one list that you start pulling the trigger on and getting immediate efforts and clearing up everybody's list. So
I will, and this may go to Kathy's point, just because we're not having a set plan tonight, one of the things that I think you all agreed to was looking at HMIS and that system. If you talk about making sure that everybody comes is in one place, there is no reason why we quarterback. Yeah, thank you. There is no reason why all the groups shouldn't be putting everybody in HMIS right now. And because we can start doing that right now. The more we do that, the better the system is. Okay, sir?
Good evening. My name is Stephen Carter. I'm with the Salvation Army. So my supervisor, Jesse Call, talked about giving the people that we serve hope. And I think a part of that would be bringing leadership to the team from local shelters, because we go out with our organization and do outreach every day. And we ask people like, hey, why aren't you guys using the cold weather shelters when they're available? And a part of giving them that hope is a bunch of our agencies go out. We get them identifying documents such as a state ID, birth certificates, and sometimes a bunch of the people that we serve, they have one bag with their whole life in it. And when they have the opportunity to go to a shelter, they don't want to go somewhere where you're telling them they can't bring their whole life with them and they are to leave it outside, or they can't come in the shelter. Because when you're looking at that, if you're faced with losing your whole life after taking those steps to try to regain yourself and get housing again, who would want to leave their whole life outside and risk somebody coming by and taking it away?
I just have a question or a proposal. I don't know which one, but everything said tonight sounds great. But once again, like, who are we holding accountable after this? Are we going to email you and ask if you have talked to so-and-so in legal about, you know what I mean? Like, who in government is the point person for this? Who's responsible for the follow-up? Who's going to talk to zoning and codes? Who's going to talk to the property assessor's office about the properties?
Yeah, so the information.
It'd already be handled if I was on me, yeah.
Yeah, so look, the vice mayor doesn't, I mean, you can try to give me all the power you want, but I don't have a lot of power. I did have enough power to be able to get everybody in this room. So the idea is I take the information and I'm taking it into the mayor's office, okay? Now, the person who's in head of the Metro Homeless Impact Division is this gentleman back here, okay? So if things are going to start happening, yeah, we're going to have to push and help Jay get this stuff done. He can't do it all by himself. But by the time we come back, we should be able to report back if we were able to do things. So yeah, you're going to have to hold some of us accountable. Again, I don't have the power of the mayor. I'm not in the mayor's office. I don't. Well, so all you have to do, if you want the mayor to come, then tell me and I will. Hold on. Because the power is in you all. The power is in the people. Well, it is true. Then you have to hold us accountable, but you have to hold us accountable for the power that we have. Why did I call it? because somebody needed to call it together, and I did it. Because what you can help me do is hold us accountable, and over the next couple weeks before we have the next meeting, last night it was designed to have you all come up with a short-term and long-term plan. We need to try that again, and we need to be a little bit more specific. A short-term plan is, how do we deal with outdoor homelessness encampments? What exactly do we need to do? How do we end outdoor homelessness? And a lot of it may involve triaging, putting people in HMIS, prioritizing people, which is what the system does, and then figuring out a very quick way of transitioning people into some type of shelter or housing. And then the long-term plan is, okay, so if you don't want people living in a temporary transitional housing, you want them 60 days, then we got to move and we got to find affordable housing, which is more difficult, but if we buy hotels, that may be an answer. We have to come up with a specific plan that we can then hand to the mayor. You can hand it to me, but I don't even vote during the council meetings. So I can't bring legislation, I can't do any of that stuff. But I can give it to the mayor, I can walk into the mayor's office and hand it to him and say, this is what this group wants to do, I'm in, and we're gonna try to hold you accountable, and we're gonna try to push. But I have some stuff, but I don't have a plan yet. That's why I think we have to come back. We don't have time to create one. I have enough based upon what Kathy said and what Jay said to go in with some things now. But what I really want from you all, what I was hoping, and we weren't sure if we could get there or not after 6 hours. I knew that. But what I really would like is something tangible, a plan that I can give to him and say, we think this will work. Now, resources, the council can put money into it. If you look at Austin, Texas, they are spending several $100 million, and they figured out a way to do it. If we're serious enough about it, if we stand together, and if we have the political will, if we can get everybody to be supportive, then maybe we can do something. It's taken 30 years. We're getting closer. We got momentum. I don't want to lose that. I think we go. Now, there's about 5 people with different hands up. Major Frizzell had his hand. He's got the microphone, so I'll go with him first. Go ahead.
One of the things that I would ask is broken narratives actually and significantly increase homelessness. So if we speak of not having any plan, then I can guarantee you'll have a quick increase of homelessness. It draws people back out of housing. It deters hope. Instead, we could recognize that the Homeless Impact Division actually worked with a group to create a strategy. They have a plan. Right now, because the city has so much CARES funds, they have the best technical advisors in the country advising the city. They're advising nonprofits who are moving more people into housing than we have any time in recent history. And there needs to be more of what's working so that that can be strengthened. So I don't know that we should speak language that there is no plan. I would rather just hold Chief Survey accountable to say, how about you share the plan that comes through the best minds in the country? Dr. Shin, all reverence the best minds in the country on this. Maybe we should use their work and use their counsel because they do send us tens of millions of dollars to do it, and then see what we disagree with the plan that we know works across the country. We're not the first city, we're not the first people. What it comes down to is the last 7%. Whatever plan you do, whether it's for Brookmead Park or Jefferson Street Bridge, it will always come down to the last 7 to 10 people. And when those last 7 to 10 people are there, we have to decide as a city, do we help them move into housing or do we suggest that they're being displaced? Sometimes we have to prioritize areas in order to help them because people are being harmed. Now, I will end with one bit of good news. It may be a bit of good news. On the issue of aging, because I agree with it significantly, we were successful getting 4 commissioners at the state level during COVID to agree and sign off on advanced aging. Tennessee, by the commissioners, agree that advanced aging starts at the age of 55 for people who have been, they already agreed, it's in writing, it's signed. And so there's things that we can use like that to advance the system that's already in place. So Chief, if I can challenge you and your staff to share the plans that you have, maybe we could disagree with that, celebrate what is working, and then ask you and those who are doing a great job. So thank you all for doing a great job. You're amazing. I mean that sincerely. Those of you who've housed hundreds of people in the last year, you're amazing. But maybe we should say what's next in the plan instead of suggesting there is no plan, because the work is next.
Thank you for your comments, and I'd also like to say to all the persons in the room who do already provide services, who are boots on the ground, thank you for what you do. Historically, I have worked in the nonprofit area. I've worked with the unhoused community. I still do that with other organizations, so I definitely know that, it is a need. What I would like to see us do today is I took notes on some of the things that we said, but I took the notes and I'd like to attach it as a task and that we associate it with a person. And basically what I heard us say, so that we do have a plan, it's a framework. Maybe we don't have a final plan, but it's a framework. So what we do, we have the starting of, but what I'd like to see us do is we want the temperature increased. Who is going to take that as the task? Where does that go? What body of people does that go to?
I'll take it, and I take it to Metro Social Services and
Take notes for me. Tell me who's going to take that. Who's taking that? Okay. We talked about it's not the best solution, but a temporary solution of the pallet shelters. Who will take that? Who will take that? Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. We talked about MDHA coordinating efforts for the unhoused. Who can take that? Who can take it? Okay. Right. I understand. I need an owner at this point. This is what I need. Okay. I'm probably going to jack this name up, but the Shangri-La group. Okay. Thank you for assisting me there. Who can make a contact there? Who's willing to take that and make Okay, so you're going to be our reporter back. I'm holding you accountable for that. Okay, wonderful. But I am holding you accountable, and you don't want me to have to look for you, okay? Because I will. Just ask Ron Johnson with the mayor's office. He knows. I will put an APB out on you if I have to. Okay. Then we also talked about the HMIS system. I work in IT. IT is not an immediate fix, but this is more of our long-term. But I want to know who's going to look into a new system. Okay, your name. We need come over here and give him your information, please. Okay. Okay, and then what I heard the room say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard the room say we would love for the mayor to attend our next session. So who's got that takeaway? Is that you also, Vice Mayor? Got you. Thank you. Okay. We need to. I'm not saying that you can do it. I just need names so that we're holding people accountable. We have a task list. We're going to check this baby off. That's what I need. Okay. I mean, this is all we're doing. We're creating it. You want a plan? Here you go. I got you. Then we also need to determine tonight before we leave, when is our next meeting date? We need, I say we give it 2 weeks for these people to do their research, and then we get our next meeting confirmed, and then we need an email. Everybody that has sat in this group, either last night and tonight, or last night or tonight, we need an email confirming that by Friday. Is Friday okay? Who's doing your data entry to do your emails? Okay. 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 Right. Uh-huh. When we gonna do it? Okay. Okay, when can we check on the rooms? Can we do it tonight? Okay. So can we agree that this email goes out with that communication? When can you have that out? Is Friday this week too soon, or Tuesday of next week? Okay. 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 So by right. Monday. Okay. So I'm gonna give you to Tuesday. I'm gonna give you a whole nother 24 hours. And if we don't have it, I probably just come downtown and visit you because we may need to do lunch that day, and I'll be happy to pay for it. Okay. So what are we good with? What are have we built what we consider to be the framework for the initial? Are we happy? I know we're not 100% happy. I know that we did not solve the problem, but we have to walk out of here tonight with action items. And that was my intent, and I hope that that happened. Okay, all right. And when we do our next meeting, we would like to have a formal agenda. Okay? All right. Thank you.
Okay,
My name is Terry Warren.
We only have a few minutes left, so I
Okay,
got
I'll make it
you
quick. My name
and
is Terry Warren.
Lindsay, I got 4 people in
I
line.
am the official spokesperson for the Jefferson Street and Homelessness Camp. And I want everybody to know we will be watching to see what goes on from here on. And we do have a lot of people that are down here that are homeless. So just, oh yeah, I wanted to mention this one more fact. I've already got all my paperwork turned in. I'm still waiting on my place to get up off under that bridge. So if anybody can tell me when they're going to give me a place, I'd sure appreciate it.
Oh, hey y'all. Terry, thank you for sharing. My name is Lindsay, and I just want to say one small thing. I think if we leave here dismissing the idea of sanctioned encampments, we would be to dismiss part of the solution. And I want to just explain a little bit about that for like 2 seconds. We need housing. We need permanent housing. We need permanent supportive housing. We need to flip these hotels into rapid rehousing. But people are so different in the needs that they have, and we are a person-centered agency at Open Table Nashville. We understand that different solutions are going to work for different people, and we also understand that we're not going to have enough permanent supportive housing units or enough hotel units for everybody. There's a lot of places we could point to show where sanctioned encampments haven't worked, and there's a lot of places we can point to show where sanctioned encampments have worked. Does anybody know the one sanctioned encampment we have in Nashville, Tennessee, and we've had for 10 years, and you probably haven't even heard about it? It's Green Street Church. I've housed dozens of people from there over the last 10 years. It's a faith community who opened their land and used religious land use when no other solutions were happening. After Tent City closed, after other encampments closed, that is part of the solution. And you probably haven't heard about them because there aren't big police reports from them. Because they take care of each other and they have a strong support system at Green Street and many of us in the community that are doing services. And we're getting them from Green Street into housing. We have land in this city that we could be using to move people from the places where homelessness isn't working and people are under-resourced to places that there are pallet shelters or tents or the 3D printing, right? Houses that are way less expensive than a lot of the other options. To dismiss sanctioned encampments is to dismiss one of the small parts of the solution to ending outdoor homelessness that is killing our friends. So please, do not hear me advocating for our friends to live in the elements where they are dying and losing their fingers and toes and legs. But please hear me in saying that it can be done as part of the solution, and we cannot dismiss that.
Okay, we got 2 more, Randy, and then Councilmember Hauser, and then we'll close. Okay, Randy.
I just want to speak a moment to the idea of public will. It was something we didn't really have a chance to get to tonight. I understand it's part of the plan, and I'd like to see that be a focus for the next meeting as well. It was interesting following the discussion. The first half of it seemed to be very much around practical solutions. And then the common theme I started hearing from comments all revolved around the public will, including the mayor, who needs to be part of that. You know, I would challenge, as part of that building public will, every one of you, and I will, email the mayor's office and say, instead of trying to do tours of homeless camps you want to demolish, come take a tour down here and talk to us. You know, that's all about. But I hope this group will put a stake in the ground for building public will, not just for support of this particular plan, but it has to be a long-term thing, I think, to change the conversation in Nashville. I heard we have a marketing professional here. I have a marketing background too. We can talk. I think that needs to be part of it. The message needs to get out. Public service announcements, billboards. We have a lot of country stars. We have a lot of public figures, business leaders. We cannot call ourselves an it city when we have how many thousand people living outdoors and many other people without housing security. You know, we can't talk about tourism unless we do this. We ought to be known as the city that cares for these people as our neighbors. But my neighbor at the table here hit a point that I absolutely agree with, because I've watched people experiencing homeless be shifted from downtown. They were in Richland Park over in the Sylvan Park area. The neighbors wanted them rooted out of there. I went to the park meeting last year over the little pocket park right across the street from the library. And a lot of what was driving that plan to get rid of the park was that people didn't want homeless people in this library and over at that park. And until we change the conversation for the long term, it needs to be not a quick fix. There's some great quick fixes we can do. But I hope this will become part of the long-term plan, a sustained effort to change the conversation, to make people feel like if you want to be a citizen in this city, part of your obligation is to take care of our neighbors and see them as neighbors. When Amazon wants to come here, if they want to be a corporate, whenever we give tax breaks to corporations who come here, part of that obligation should be, what are you going to do for our homeless people in return for this tax break? Glad for all the jobs you're going to create. What are you going to do about that? So that's all for the next meeting, but I just hope that will be a part of the conversation.
All right, last comment?
I am so excited to see all the energy that's been in this room the last 2 days. And I've been working on this for quite a while, and I'm so excited to see everybody's here. It's going to be hard to keep our excitement up, but we're going to have to remember there are going to be times we're going to slip, we're going to fail, we're going to do the thing that sounds like the best, most wonderful thing ever, and it's not going to come out the way we want, but we can't be discouraged. And we've got to continue honoring and working with each other and remember each other's humanity as we go through this. It's really easy when we're passionate about something to say, my idea, not your idea, or point fingers. And we're going to absolutely need to make a commitment to each other that we are going to honor each other as we go through this process. We're going to help lift somebody up by the elbow and say, we know you fell on your face and you got egg all over it, but you know what? We learned from it. And so I think one of the things I hope that we all hold is that all of this is a learning, growing experience. What worked in one city may or may not work in Nashville, but we can learn from them and augment it for what works here. And I think the compassion and the intelligence and the will that I'm seeing in this room, we can do it. But I just want us all to leave feeling inspired by what we have accomplished and know that we're going to, as a group, continue working on this and helping each other and doing our research and doing all the wonderful things. And I really appreciate your putting names and accountabilities. I appreciate that so much. And I just wanted to express my gratitude and just say we just need to make sure we hold each other up during this and not be getting it down into the gutter that's so easy to go to in this environment. So thank you very much.
No, I think we're finished. Yeah, because we got to get you all out of here because they're going to close in just a minute. Thank you all for coming. We will be in touch with everybody. I will tell you a lot of stuff did get accomplished. There's a lot of stuff on those pads. So we'll see you all in a couple of weeks. All right.
There's a lot going on. Can you?
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network.
If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.